It seemed like this insurmountable task, but I should have known that OU students, when they have a great idea that they're passionate about, can pull this off. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to get together and celebrate the joy and the work that has been put into this project, and also all the good that has come from it. So thank you for spending your afternoon with us, and we're really glad that you're here. It's gracious of you to give your time. We have a few introductions. First, we are honored to have our president with us, Joe Harroz. Our vice president for student affairs, Dr. David Surratt. Associate Vice President, Brent Daves. We also have our SGA President and Vice President, Zach Lasaw and Denzel Akufo. I had to look at my pronunciations. I was like, guys, I'm about to draw a blank. I just want to really make sure I nail this. So our SGA leadership. I also want to recognize all of the staff members in this room who have been a part of supporting this, whether it be Frank Henry in Food Services, his whole team. We started this project hand in hand with Food Services, and I want to make sure that we recognize those staff members who have been participants in this project. And finally, our student volunteers. The students who are on the food pantry team, could you stand up for us? Everyone in this room has supported the food pantry in some way. Maybe you brought a can of green beans the day that we needed you to bring a can of green beans. Maybe you helped us by donating your time, your treasure to our efforts. Maybe you helped us get a contract signed or had a great idea. Maybe you have helped us keep our facility clean. Maybe you painted a mural on the wall, or maybe you donated your time and got to sign a brick in the food pantry over in Stubman Village. You're all part of the food pantry family, and I am so grateful to you for everything that you have done to get us to this point. With no further ado, I'm going to invite a wonderful, wonderful colleague of mine. Matthew Marks was one of the students who came up with this idea when he was part of our Student Government Association Executive Cabinet. Matt, if you know, Matt, you know that he has a heart of gold. The purest and most visionary leader that we could have chosen for this project. Matt is humble, but he is articulate. He is forceful, but he is friendly. And those are the ways that he has made his relationships and the connections work for this pantry. It was a great honor to hire Matt as the first full-time role as campus care coordinator that we've ever had overseeing the pantry. Prior to that, Matt served as the graduate assistant in charge of that, and then the student who was in charge of this. So Matt has a long history at the pantry. I'm sure he feels like he has a 5-year-old child. He's coming up here today to celebrate. Maybe twins. It's a lot of work. Matt is a double graduate from the University of Oklahoma. His undergraduate was in journalism, his master's was in adult and higher ed. As I said, he is one of the reasons that we're standing here today. I'm very proud to introduce you from Plano, Texas, Mr. Matt Marks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone here today. Thank you so much for being here. It is a great day for us to celebrate our food pantry, talk about its mission, and share in all the accomplishments that you're going to get to hear about today. It was on March 22nd, 2017, 5 years ago and a day, that we officially opened our doors at the OU Food Pantry. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here today in our audience that was here 5 years ago, out in the parking lot in Stubman, when we did the ribbon cutting ceremony and everything. So thank you again for coming back and supporting us along the way. I want to take a few minutes to talk about our resource, talk about how the history of how we started. It started from SGA back in 2016. Well, 2017 we opened, but 2016 is an idea. And it was under Daniel Pay and Michael Lutter's administration that I had the honor of serving as their executive assistant in their cabinet. And it was one day after one of our meetings that Daniel and Michael came up to me and said, Matt, would you want to head up a task force with other cabinet members to get a food pantry at campus? I said, I love that. Let's do it. Let's roll. And so we got to work. Now, before I continue, I do want to shout out Daniel and Michael. Unfortunately, Daniel wasn't able to make it down here today, but I owe a lot to both of them. Daniel, if you know Daniel's story, after he graduated from OU, he ran for public office and is serving in the House here in Oklahoma City, representing his city of Lawton. And I just owe a lot to both of them because I would not be up here today if it weren't for them. I don't know what the food pantry would look like without them. And I'm just so proud of them. And Daniel and Michael both are fighters for food insecurity and trying to end hunger in our state. And I owe a lot to them. So thank you for them. And I wish Daniel was able to be here today, but I just wanted to shout him out because he means a whole lot to myself and to our team. So back to the story, in 2016, we had a lot of ups and downs with the pantry. At one time, we were told this wasn't going to happen. Came back from summer vacation and sat down with Daniel and George in the SG offices. And they said, well, this isn't going to happen. And it was a bummer because we worked so hard on this project. Then a few weeks later, I heard some rumblings in the grapevine that this project was back on track. And I still don't know to this day what magic went on behind the scenes to make it happen, but here it was. And I have some people I want to thank from the beginning. And just give me a second, I'm going to shout them out. And if I forget anybody, I do apologize. But these are members that were on our steering committee at the beginning and individuals that really helped us. Jenny Hill, Dr. Kelly Danfus, Kevin Blake, Georgia Maddy, Hui Wynn, Kevin Barker, Brad Burnett, Dave Annis, Frank Henry, Wyndham McDowell, Maggie Poole, Katie Powers, Fran Olson-Sharp, and Shannon Stanton. All these individuals helped us as students in our steering committee, helped us navigate through challenges. I mean, for all of us, this was something entirely new for us. We're trying this out. It's trial by error. We're going to see how it rolls, but we needed a lot of help. And we spent countless hours planning. We took a trip up to UCO to look at their food pantry and see, could we model it after theirs? And after all the groundwork was laid down, we assembled our first ever student staff. And that's the great thing about this pantry. It's entirely student run. Students make it happen. It's always been that way. And we had 9 students on that original team. And I like to shout them out. Katie Dale, Melissa Henniger, Emily Sharp, Haley Matai, Molly Sparks, Caleb Knowles, Justin Ballou, Jacob Thomas, and myself. 9 students running the operations, the donations, the marketing, and again, a lot of trial by error. We're all new to this, but it was a great passion project. We're all dedicated to the cause. In the first few weeks, we served about 20 or 30 students and staff. Over time, that number grew, 60, 80, 100, 120 right before COVID began. And that was our highest number at that time. So why did our campus need a food pantry? Well, you look across our country, food pantries are popping up all across our nation. Some started a decade ago, some around the time we did, some are still forming today. But I wanted to show you this data point right here. 2 months ago in the Oklahoman, they had this article, Hunger in Oklahoma. We're in the top 10 list of hungriest states in our nation. We're number 8. Let that sink in. We're the 8th hungriest state in our nation. This is why we needed a pantry. 18.6% of people here in the state face food insecurity. There's a need. And we saw that on our campus. And we didn't really put out a survey or anything when we got this started. It was just a gut feeling. This campus needed it. And we were right. A lot of people have used our pantry. When we opened our doors, I mentioned 2 things on that day. One, that our pantry would be a game changer for the University of Oklahoma. Check. You're going to hear about some great accomplishments here soon, how that's happened. Second, that we would be a model for other campuses to follow after. Check. We've had numerous conversations with great people across our nation. One of my favorite stories is we had a Zoom call 2 years ago with some members from the St. Francis College of Nursing in Peoria, Illinois. They wanted to know what we're doing here in Norman, Oklahoma. They wanted to see our model and learn from what we're doing. I want to share one of my favorite stories. We had a client a few years ago who came by and picked up a box of cereal. The next week came by and told us a story. She said she took that cereal home, put it in their pantry at their house. Her grandson came over, opened up the pantry, and just got super excited. Eyes got real wide because they had a box of cereal. Now, to some of us, that box of cereal may just be Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms. It's just in our pantry. We forgot we bought it. It's just sitting there. But now put yourself in the shoes of a little boy. That's a meal source. That's some snacks. That's something special, something they needed. And that's, again, why we needed this pantry, because of the need. I had a conversation a few weeks ago. We were unloading a truck over at the pantry. And this couple was walking by, both OU alums. They were just checking out kind of what was going on, and shared a story that they were OU alums from the 80s and said, I wish we had this when we were here. I've heard that a lot over 5 years from a lot of different people. Again, there was that need. So before I close, I want to say a lot of thank yous. I do want to highlight a few individuals, but I could be up here all day, and I know you don't want that. I could talk all day to every single one of you because you have played a part in this pantry over the last 5 years. I want to highlight a few individuals. When we started, our pantry wasn't very visually appealing when we first opened our doors. It was just white walls. It didn't have a whole lot. And I remember we were like, we want to paint the pantry. We want it to look nice, feel like a home. And I sent an email to my good friend Rhonda Kinsel. I said, Rhonda, I don't know how we're going to do this. And she wrote back and she said, I talked to her husband, Dave, and they talked and they said, we got you. We'll cover this for you. And that means a lot. And then Rhonda's team painted our first ever wall mural at the pantry. A year later, we partnered with the big event. I got to give a big shout out to the big event. Great students, some of our students on our team are part of the big event. And they do just great work year in, year out. And we've been at job site with them the last, I think, 4 years now. But the year after, we had members of the food services team paint the rest of our pantry with another beautiful wall mural. And then just last year, we had students from Norman North for the big event paint our storage area. I mean, it's a community effort. I think a lot about our first ever food drives on campus and the partnerships we wanted to establish, because we wanted this, again, community effort. I think about Gaylord College, one of the first colleges really to support us in a big food drive. So thank you to Dean Kelly, Lee Reynolds, thank you very much. Think about the fall food drive we have every year. The last 3 or 4 years, we've been partnering with Vicki Bumgar and Becky Barker. Thank you so much for that, because we get thousands of pounds of food every year to our pantry, and that's you all helping us in that way. I want to thank our volunteers, our community partners. Thank you for what you're doing to support what we're doing, because we can't do it without you. And I want to address our team real quickly. I'm so proud of you all. Thank you for the hard work that you're putting in, week out, helping us all across the board. I mean, 5 years ago, I'm living in the moment. I'm not sure. I'll be graduating at that point like a year later, so I'm not even thinking this. But I'm just amazed right now, and like taking in the moment right now. Like, how awesome is this? But you all making it happen. I'm really proud of the work that our team is doing. I mean, this is some of the best student leaders. And I don't know how you all have time to sleep and eat sometimes, because I know you're in other groups. You're all across the board doing great things on this campus. But this is the best group I could ask for. And our seniors who are graduating, we're going to miss you, because you played a major role in what we're doing. So thank you so much. So just to wrap up, 6 years ago, this was just an idea. A year later, it turned into a reality. And I'll tell you, it's been an amazing 5 years, and this food pantry is not going anywhere. We're going to continue the great work, because there's a lot of need here in our state and on this campus. I just want to say thank you so much to all of you here today for being here, for supporting us, for believing in us, supporting this mission. We can't do it without you. So I'm just taking this all in. This is an incredible day, and with all of you being here, it just got that much better. So thank you so much, and love you all, and thank you for making a difference.
Hey, how about Kristen? Let's give some love up to her. I don't think Matt did a very good job. This is mainly cleanup here. There are certain times that you stand up and you're like, I've got like pages here, none of them are worth anything right now. Right? I mean, is that not remarkable? In 5 years, what's taken place here? It addresses a problem that so many of us don't have to confront, and so many do. And it's something that's convenient and easy not to have to admit to as a society, right? 18.5% of Oklahomans, right, face hunger every day. In the great quantification we have, you've got the metric system, then you have the OU system of measurement. That's roughly 7 OU football stadiums filled up every day of people that are hungry, that face this fear every single day. And then there are so many that never see any side of this. And we talk a lot about how can we be better? How can we be, a great institution? And it's a big discussion point for us, right? How do we achieve what a university can achieve? And some of you have heard me talk about there are 3 things that we have to be. We have to be, and I used to say, bold, honest, and clear-eyed. And after a while, I modified it to you have to be honest first, and then bold, and then clear-eyed about how you accomplish that. I think it's especially true with something as fundamental and important as food insecurity. Right? Before you can have big, bold ideas, you have to be honest about what the reality is. And being, the 8th worst in this category as a state in the country is real. And how do we approach this? I think the answer is with honesty, that it's a critical problem that faces individuals every day and has major implications. It affects every aspect of one's day and career, academically or otherwise, to be hungry. And, to look at what Matt has done, and Ethan Maddy, who a lot of you all know, he hasn't won very many awards this year, but we're hoping to find him one. He's got an okay future ahead. But I love that he's this year's, outstanding senior, and the direct link to the food pantry. So you see 5 years ago, the starting of this, and you see where it is today. And I mean, the real heroes, there are 2 rows of you all that stood up, the student volunteers. I talk about the non-glory side of this. It's something you're doing to help. And when we talk about what makes a university a place that's special, we talk a lot on the recruiting trail about how do you describe OU to someone that doesn't know it. And there's a lot of words that you can use and a lot of things that you can say, but I wish that they could feel this, right? The impact of this, and the testimony of 5 years of being a part of this, but it almost didn't take off, and now it's a model that's being replicated across the country. The individual stories are the ones that all of us really feel, and I've just heard 3 of the sort of windows into the experiences of individuals that have had the opportunity that the food pantry provides, right? One client right after the pandemic began lost their job and said they wouldn't have eaten without it. Wouldn't have eaten at hard stop, period. Right? And a second group, the 2 of the conversations were international students. The first of the 2 that I'll talk about are some students that had just come over here and didn't have the basic necessities and couldn't afford to buy it. Not just food, but what do you sleep on? How do you get a pillow? How do you do those sorts of things? And the third was also from the international student community, talking about the fact that the pantry provided a community for them as well. Right? Not just the food to nourish them, but also the relationships that have nourished them. It's stunning. And everything that I would want to say will not be said as well as how Matt articulated it. So I'm just going to refer back to that and adopt it as my own. We do talk about, I talk quite a bit about what does it mean, what's the meaning of life? And I've digested it down to love, and if you can, make a difference. I think this project embodies both aspects of this. Right? This isn't just about making a difference, it's also love. The idea that we reach out and help somebody when one of their fundamental needs isn't certain of being met. Right? I mean, for all the things that we do and worry about and think about, and having been a law school dean for 9 years, I've seen expert students that stress as they go into finals. For all the stresses and concerns and anxieties that most students have, the one so many don't have is, will they have their next meal? And everything else pales in comparison. You have to be able to survive and have the certainty of that. So I'm just beyond proud. This is, I've only been there twice. This job, you do a lot of events, but each time I pause, because this is special. Right? This is at the core of what we need to do for our fellow people, because but for the grace of God, right? And so I just want to end by saying, thank you for starting this 5 years ago. Thank you for propagating this. I'd love your next step is going to be taking on global health. This seems like a nice place to start, helping locally and then looking globally and looking at population health. And to all the volunteers, you're so much better than me. Which, by the way, it's not a super high standard, so I wouldn't get too excited about that. I think about myself back here as a student just 5-6 years ago. Call it 85 to 89, somewhere in there. And I wouldn't have been the student doing this. I'm blown away by it. And I think there are 45 student volunteers, roughly. There are 14,000 people that have been helped by this food pantry. And to the student volunteers that are here today and those that might do it in the future, just know that this is true service. Like all service, you're going to gain more from it than you give. But here, when you're giving a lot. So thank you, and thanks for the leadership. Appreciate y'all.
Well, if you're cleanup, then I'm the water boy, unfortunately. All right. Hello, everyone. I am so excited and thankful to be here with each and every one of you today. I've met almost all of you throughout my past 3 years here, and really, just to reiterate on that, I'm thankful to know all of you. So I kind of want to back up a little bit to my start at the Pantry back in 2018. I met KP and I met Carrie Dawkins through PCS, President's Community Scholars, and we volunteered as a group, small group at the food pantry. And when I walked in, I did not know that it was going to be such a profound impact on my life. There were probably about a dozen small shelves that lined our little pantry. They were packed with food. We had an old freezer in the back that had our chicken and beef. We had a very old fridge that recently died, and we had to get a new one. But there was no extra storage. There was no online ordering system. Just the friendly people at the food pantry that I got to meet that were on the staff whenever I was a volunteer. And I have to think that that's how, whenever our clients come in, they see those friendly faces whenever they come in. So just to touch back again, there were at the beginning of the pandemic, there were 8 students on our team. And they were phenomenal. They did a ton of work, but to put that in perspective, which I'll talk about in a little bit, we now have 45 students on our team, and that has grown a lot. And it's been phenomenal to see this growth over the time. When the university shut down after spring break, it was a really difficult decision for us at the pantry. We could either shut down our operations, or we could switch to some type of online ordering system. And needless to say, we did switch to online ordering system, but it was quite the logistical challenge. So I remember sitting with my friend Braden Moore, our former volunteer coordinator at the time, in my car, and we pulled out a piece of paper and we just wrote out what we thought the student team should look like. Because I believe there were only 3 of us that stayed here in Oklahoma during that time, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. And thanks to the help of close friends, we were able to adopt this online ordering system. And needless to say, we had to really change a lot of things. We had to buy new shelves from Lowe's, and thank you to Wyndon for helping us out with that. We had to cart them, we had to build them ourselves. We had to go through a full cleaning process at the pantry where someone came in, hosed down all the walls, and then we had to come in and paint everything with the big event. We even offered delivery for a few months, though I wasn't the biggest fan. It was really fun, where we got to take our cars and deliver to all types of students and staff around the Norman community. And as Matt had mentioned, there were so many people that helped us do those deliveries and just helped us stay afloat during that time. Now we serve so much product to so many families in the Norman community. We created an online ordering system through OrgSync at the time, which is now Engage. But unfortunately, it was unsustainable. And so it was exhausting for us 4 to be filling 40 to 50 orders per week, delivering them, taking them to people, figuring out how we were going to figure it out. And so we created a little strategic plan where we set up a team. And so we welcomed 20 amazing student leaders onto our team just a few months after the pandemic had started. And keep in mind, this is when no one really knew if the university was going to stay open that semester, and it was eye-opening to see those types of people to come and help us through this really tough time. And since that time, we have created partnerships with dozens of student organizations. We have doubled the number of households that we served just that fall, up from 40 to 50 to around 100. And it was just really amazing to see now we have almost our 50 people on our team and still growing. And because of this continued community involvement, we've had the opportunity to launch a variety of new projects and partnerships. So I'd like to start with the Big 12 Food Pantry Alliance. So when I stepped into this role 3 years ago, food insecurity, it was a really massive issue. And I knew that I needed help to start it. And I went online and I went scouring, trying to find like best practices. I'm involved with the Oklahoma group, if any of you know, the student consulting on campus, and I thought I would pull some of the best practices from there. There was nothing. And so I went and I looked up the College and University Food Bank Alliance. And we joined, and there really wasn't a ton of resources there either. And so we created what we call the Big 12 Food Pantry Alliance, which is just all of the food pantries in the Big 12 coming together to share their experiences and the best practices, and just really how you can improve a food pantry with such a high turnover rate. If you don't know, usually food pantry executive directors or campus care coordinators, there's a light there. Food pantry campus care coordinators or executive directors usually last 1 to 2 years at their food pantries, and then move on to different types of services. It really is an entry-level position into the workforce. And with that, most of these places don't have a student team like we do. They don't have the volunteers that we have. And so it was really important for these people, including me, to share what they're doing. We created an Amazon wish list. We created all types of new and improved, I don't want to say best practices again, but best practices for the food pantry. And representatives from these food pantries, we met monthly via Zoom. We welcomed all types of guest speakers and industry professionals to share their experiences. And since then, we actually had the idea from the University of Texas, horns down, that we wanted to start a little bit of a campus closet for free clothing, something that the University of Texas had actually launched several years ago. And in doing that, Matt and I sat down and we thought, we could do this. And so we put out a little rack, and we put out a post on Instagram, and we said, hey, if you want to donate to our campus closet, please do. And we got a lot of donations, but sadly, when we're serving 100 to 150 people per week, that's going to go really quickly. And so we knew that something had to change. And so we went to tour a few places around Oklahoma to see what other people do and how we can improve. And we went to the OCCC campus to visit their food pantry. And while their food pantry was very impressive, what was really impressive was their version of the campus closet. They had a room probably about half this size that was just full of clothes. Thousands and thousands of articles of clothing, shoes, ties, household product. And we thought, we love Oak Trip, but how did Oak Trip get this and we don't have this? And in the corner we saw a big sign for the sharing tree. And we thought, okay, this could be cool. And so we reached out to the sharing tree and their executive director, Lizzie, and we went in, we gave a tour, and by the time we were done with our tour at the sharing tree, she was already trying to give us free clothes. If you've never been, they're located in Moore. They're in an old church. They have hundreds of thousands of articles of clothing, shoes, ties, and they just wanted to give all of it to us. And so with that partnership, we've been able to provide thousands of articles of clothing, household goods, including, like you mentioned, President, just linens, bedding, everything for our international students. And we really wouldn't be where we're at without the sharing tree right now. Another project that's been developing over the past couple of years with our Associate Director of Outreach, Audrey Williams. Wait, Audrey, yes. She's been phenomenal with our show, Pantry Eats. You might have seen it. So she came up with the idea back in 2020, and it was a long shot. But working with the online engagement team, they created what really can only be described as the most fun cooking show you've ever seen. Audrey is very quick with her puns, and you should go check them out. And today, I'm very excited to share that Audrey and our online engagement team partnered with the Gaylord College of Journalism in a capstone class to do a full production over in Gaylord, and it'll be a weekly special. And so make sure you tune into that. It's one of our many projects that are going on right now that we're really, really proud of. Another project that I want to mention is one that's near and dear to our hearts with Crest. So near the beginning of the pandemic, you might have seen Governor Stitt came out and visited the food pantry along with President Harroz, and this led to a discussion with the Harroz family, specifically with Tina and Bruce. And they, thanks to their generosity over the past 2 years, have donated over 350 Thanksgiving meals, full Thanksgiving meals, everything but the turkey is what they like to say, to the OU community. And we've gotten to give those to so many people. And I'm so thankful, again, for your service and for your family's service to our mission. In addition to these projects, I'd like to briefly talk more in depth about our longtime partners. So since day one, the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma has been there for us. We order monthly from the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma, and they just have supplied seemingly unlimited product to us over the past few years, and we would not be where we are without them. And to feed the children, who really provides totally free product to us whenever we need it, thank you. To Sooner parents, who have provided just unbounding support since day one, thank you. And to the OU Federal Credit Union, who has provided almost all of the bags that we have given in our online orders over the past few years, thank you. Please join me in thanking these wonderful organizations. I would like to share a few numbers with you. So when we first opened in 2017, we would have never dreamed of serving probably even 1,000 households. But last year, back in February, we were thrilled to welcome our 10,000th client into the food pantry. And 2 weeks ago, I'm happy to share, just 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks in a year after that milestone, we welcomed our 15,000th client into the pantry. So please give a round of applause for that too. And lastly, we would not be where we are without our volunteers. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we had trouble, as I mentioned, finding our volunteers. And today, we have more than 700 active volunteers. No thanks to our logistics team and our outreach team. So thank you so much. And please give another warm welcome to our amazing volunteers. Before I finish, I'd like to briefly share our vision for the future. So following the celebration, I'd like to invite each and every one of you to come and tour our food pantry. I know some of you have been there before, but even if you haven't been in the past 6 months, you should come check it out. We have a lot going on, and we'd love to welcome you. We're located right behind Papa John's on Elm Avenue. So when you walk into the food pantry for this first time, a lot of people will say, "Is this it? It's kind of small." And our space is small, but it's efficient, and we use every square inch. When you see it, you'll understand. And it does get the job done. We're lucky enough to have a really large storage space at the end of the building, a space we hope you'll come and tour as well. However, last month we had nearly 200 households come through our door in just 2 days. And we are really excited to continue to expand our services and hopefully in the coming years into a larger and more efficient space. Our fridge and freezer actually can't fit enough produce to provide for half of the families that we serve every week. So we're looking to get more fridges and freezers and really just a lot of expansion in the coming years. I want to conclude with the fact that the food pantry is a second home for many. For me, for Matt, for our volunteers, and more importantly, for many of our clients, it's a second home. I personally have slept at the food pantry before. I got very tired and just fell asleep. And I know that is the case. Maybe not everybody's sleeping at the food pantry, but it is a second home, and I think that whenever you go and tour later, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We want to grow that family so that no one feels like they can't or shouldn't use the OU Food Pantry. It really is for everybody at OU, no exceptions. Our vision is to end food insecurity at the University of Oklahoma, and we are that much closer every day. Thanks to all of your support, our volunteers, our donors. And I want to conclude with thanking Matt. Matt, you have been like an older brother to me over the past few years, and I would not be where I am without you, your leadership, your vision, your love for everybody. is unmatched, and I'm so thankful to have you in my life. And I can speak on behalf of everybody in the Food Pantry team. You are just wonderful, and we wouldn't trade you for the world, and we hope that you will stay around with us forever. Thank you for your unwavering support, and I cannot wait to see where we are 5 years from today. Thank you.